It's a Teen Talks Kitten podcast where I embarrass myself. Hello, and welcome to episode 118 of the Teen Talks Game podcast. My name is Ringo. I hope you guys are doing very well. It is now the month of May, which is a blessing and a curse in a way. It's a blessing because school is almost over. It's a curse because I have lots of exams and lots of projects to do. And, the end of school is always, of course, the most stressful period of school. But this week in general, let's take it week by week. In general, this week, I feel like I survived. Maybe I didn't survive. I don't know. But anyway, before I start, make sure you guys follow, share, and like a Teen Talks Game podcast, even though I sound super duper cringy. But Spotify told me to say that. So you guys should totally do what I say and follow, share, and like a Teen Talks Game podcast. And you can hear it wherever you are or whatever platform you want to. Stuff like that. Is that what people say? I don't know. I really do need to fix the music still because it still has a stupid metronome sound. Anyway, who knows? Who knows, guys? I'll fix the music eventually. Anywho, this week was fun. This week was boring. This week was lots of work. This week was crazy stuff to do. But oh man, at least it's Friday night and I can talk about figure skating because we have a video essay today and I'm really excited. But again, I hope you guys are all doing very well. I hope you're staying healthy and safe. And it's getting hotter where I live, and so make sure you be drinking that water. Make sure you avoiding that heat stroke. It was so hot today, genuinely. It was so hot today, and so make sure y'all stay safe, stay cold, stay chill, and drink water. Okay. Let's head over to our program of the week. This program is a good one. Program of the week. Alrighty, friends. Our program of the week this week is from the 2010 Olympics, which was a really good Olympics. I do feel like the 2010 Olympics were an Olympics without as much drama as there was. The only dramatic event I feel like, well, I don't know. The dramatic event was the men's event, and this program comes from the 2010 Winter Olympics men's champion, and that is Evan Lysacek and his short program from the 2010 Olympics, which was the Firebird by Igor Stravinsky. I mean, the Firebird is a piece of music, sorry. The Firebird is a piece of music that you cannot skate to with like this just like no. You have to be really into the music of the Firebird, or I feel like the program often gets really drowned out sometimes, unfortunately. And so I do feel like you have to be very committed to the Firebird, and that's exactly what Evan Lyschek does super duper well in this program. He starts off the program kind of in a dramatic pose. It's very suspenseful in the beginning of the program, and so that's very nice. I don't know. His first jump is a triple axel, lands it right on the beat of the music, becoming a little more dramatic, a little less suspenseful. Immediately goes into a very nice crossover transition. Spread eagle, a short spread eagle, which is another very nice transition into his what's it called, triple tail combination. Doesn't Not a very high jumper, I would say, but a very fast rotator, which is a nice quality to see. Another set of very nice crossovers into a triple flip. And after that, I feel like the program gets a lot better. I don't know. After the jumps get out of the way, I do feel like the program gets a lot better. He starts like, I don't know, it's like a frenzy of different things, a frenzy of different motions and movements. His first little step sequence E area, little step sequence action is this amazing, and I mean this like amazing like twizzle kind of thing. He like twizzles so fast, his hands are in front of his head and they're just so like dramatically placed. His outfit is completely black, which I feel like adds to the dramatic effect. But yeah, very cool steps, a very interesting step. I feel like he does use the position of his body a lot, going up, going down, kind of squatting, kind of rising up, jumping up a little bit and landing on a toe pick kind of vibe. Just amazing motions, dynamic motions. That's what I would say in the step sequence. His spins are very fast as well. Very nice sit spin position, for example. Very nice position there. He does another little step sequency moment again, super duper fast. The music is really, it's almost like the music is catching up to him. He skates so fast throughout every motion. You don't really have a lot of time to see, each and every individual movement because there's just so much to focus on, so much to pay attention to. Not a very calm program, a very loud, energetic program that is quite beautiful and quite appropriate for the music. Again, so many dynamic motions, so much moving up and down, squatting and rising, and using standing on the toe picks and using the full length of the blade to the best of his ability. I really enjoy the ending of the program, his very, very last spin. He's excited, pumping his fist, going to the last spin, camel spin into a beautiful sit spin, and you can see him smiling as he transitions into the other foot and then to the wide spin position, which is a great thing to see. So when you can tell somebody is smiling throughout their spin, I think that's a beautiful moment. So yeah, go check it out. Evan likes to check his 2010 Winter Olympic shirt program to the Firebird by Igor Stravinsky. A really fun program, a very energetic program, and a great example of keeping up with the music and not making it drown you out for sure. So yeah, go check it out. And now let's head into our main episode. That was your program of the week. Alrighty, everyone. So I was just reviewing my notes because I'm like, what is this episode supposed to be about again? No, genuinely, I make my notes on Sundays and then I record on Fridays, and then I'm like, dang, what was I trying to say when I made these notes on Sunday? But anyway, this episode, again, the season is over, so I can do whatever I want. I mean, it's May now. I mean, like, figure skating hasn't happened for a whole month and a bit. We won't have any more figure skating until like August, September. So it's like, yay. But well, we'll see. We'll see what happens, right? We'll see what happens. If there's any exciting news, and then I will definitely talk about it on the podcast, of course. But for now, not much to talk about, and so I can do whatever I want. And so I wanted to do a video essay because I haven't done one in a while, and I kind of just want to rant. If you haven't been here for a while, that's okay. But I like doing these kind of different video essay episodes where I discuss different ideas or issues or concepts within the figure skating world. Let me think. What are some good examples? I talked once about the impact of social media on figure skating, on AI and figure skating, and the possibility of AI entering the figure skating world. I also talked about, what else have I talked about? Oh my gosh. The impact of costumes on figure skating, the impact of music on figure skating, and lots of different like ideas, concepts that are, not talking about specific competitions or specific skaters, but just talking about different ideas, concepts, or parts of this wonderful, wonderful sport that are so important, but they are, I don't know, spiritually, symbolically important in a sense. And I like to think very abstractly and critically about all of these different issues and ideas within the figure skating community. Anyway, today's episode is about the best figure skater, in search of the best figure skater, and I say best with air quotes around it for sure. Reddit posts, I always see them. I'm sure also on Twitter, on Instagram, everywhere, right? Reddit posts are always debating who the best, again in air quotes, the best figure skater is. And there's always these clips that are like edits and they're set to extremely dramatic music on Instagram, for example. And they have all these like transitions and all these rotations and all these like flashes and like fade outs and things like that. And there are these really dramatic edits that people make to kind of honor their favorite figure skaters, to honor the best figure skaters who they believe are the best figure skaters. Um, and so that's something you see on Instagram a lot. I'm sure you see it on other places as well, YouTube and whatnot. Skating Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it now is, they're forever having these debates over this all important topic. Yusri Hanyu is the best figure skater. No. Yulia Malinin is the best figure skater. No. Isabella Vito is the best figure skater. No, actually, it's Alyssa Yu, etc. Right? And so we're always debating on who the dang best figure skater is. And so today's episode is all about that kind of idea. And even if there is a best figure skater, is it possible to find out who? what criteria should we use, what criteria is kind of positive criteria that adds to a skater's quality of being the best. Is it their accomplishments? Is it the jumps they've done? Is it by their artistry? Is it by their story? Is it by their, memorability? Is it by their personality on and off the ice? And then as well as, what subtracts in a sense from a skater's quality being best. Have they had any random doping scandals, about scandals, things that they've said? What about lack of like one skill over another skill? There's so many different conflicts, right, over these issues of who is really the best figure skater, why are they the best? Is it just because of this or just because of that? Or is it a combination of things? But what removes them from being kind of the best figure skater? They've had a few drama, scandals, things they've said that don't make them a very positive person to be around. Or is that kind of separate from being a figure skater? Is that more related to being a human being? Or are the two so deeply intertwined that we can't separate the skater from the human. But anyway, none of this is really my personal opinion. It's just kind of what I've analyzed from people who have these very much best figure skater takes. And so today I want to talk about kind of the different criteria I see being used for these, dramatic edits and these Twitter debates and these, extreme Reddit posts. What are the pieces of criteria that I've seen sorry, what are the pieces of criteria that I've seen or the different qualifiers or factors people have considered into making the best figure skater, as well as what has kind of subtracted from this. People love to criticize, people love to blame, people love to spread hate, unfortunately, though sometimes that hate is a little well deserved, especially when figure skaters don't do the best things. And then I'm going to give you my ultimate conclusion and maybe a little bit of who I believe is the best figure skater or what my personal criteria for the best figure skater is. And so, yeah, so today we're going to find who the best figure skater is, even if that's possible, which I guess we should start with that criteria. Is it possible to find out even who is the best figure skater? I do find this question interesting. Is it possible to find out who is the best figure skater? Well, that all depends on what you mean by the best, you know what I mean? And that, again, depends on what criteria you want to find the best. But I think the important thing to note here is that whoever you define as the best figure skater, there's always going to be people who disagree with you, right? It's a subjective thing, maybe. Maybe it is an objective thing. If we did it objectively, maybe it would be pretty easy to figure out. But if we did it subjectively, right, and we let people choose who they want, it wouldn't be so easy to figure out. Nobody could come to one complete consensus. And so I guess the idea here in this episode really is it possible to find out who the best figure skater is using objective data, objective situations, objective achievements, etc. And so it's very interesting to me, this topic. But anyway, let's talk about criteria that kind of adds to a skater's quality of being the best. Like if you are one of the best figure skaters, you have to follow some of these criteria, maybe all of these criteria, maybe one piece of this criteria. But again, that kind of depends on what you want to define as. A lot of people might define, a lot of people, I think this is really the easy way to define who the best is by, accomplishments. It's the people who have won the most competitions, who have had the most impact on the competitive nature of the sport. A really, good example I feel like is Yuzuru Hanyu of Japan in the men's singles. I feel like he's always been named as one of the best figure skaters in the entire world, one of the best figure skaters in history, regarded as one of the best figure skaters of all time, etc. Yuzuru Hanyu is somebody who has won 2 Olympic golds, and that is quite an achievement in itself, obviously. Not many people have won 1 Olympic gold, let alone 2 Olympic golds. And so if you did it by accomplishment, maybe that would be an easy pick. And Yuzuru did not just win the Olympic gold, of course. He won world titles, the Four Continents titles, Grand Prix final titles, Japanese national titles, etc. Um, and he, competed within all of this pressure, and defying that pressure might add to his accomplishments. And so I do feel like that's a really easy way to define who's the best. It's the one who wins the most, obviously, right? You could also think about Yuna Kim for being one of the best figure skaters. Yuna Kim from South Korea in the women's singles event, perhaps she is one of the best figure skaters because of her accomplishments. She's a Olympic champion. Some might argue, most might argue, maybe most might argue that she is a two-time Olympic champion in 2014 in Sochi as well. She never placed off the podium in any competition that she went to, which is a big accomplishment in and of itself, of course. But you also think about Yuna Kim maybe coming from a country that doesn't have a lot of figure skating, and so even accomplishing a figure skating gold medal at the Olympics, along with multiple world titles, Grand Prix final titles, and all these other accomplishments, Yuna Kim is maybe even more accomplished maybe for coming from a country that did not have a huge figure skating culture. But I'm sure a lot of Americans will remember, accomplished names, I guess, like Michelle Kwan, for example, six-time world champion, like 10,000 time US champion or something crazy. Let me search that up actually. Um, Gosh, she was a five-time world champion and a nine-time US champion. She won two Olympic medals. She never did get that gold medal that she really wanted. And so perhaps a lot of people wouldn't say that she's the best because she never won the biggest accomplishment there is in figure skating. But a lot of people would argue against that, saying five world titles is not something a lot of people accomplish. Nine US national titles is definitely not something a lot of people accomplish either. And so, basing it entirely off of the best, the highest accomplishments, the Olympic golds, I do think is maybe, not the criteria that most people are using sometimes, though it is, an often easy to tell, very objective almost criteria. But are they really the best skater? Or maybe they just won some of those titles and won some of those achievements because of they were the best on the day. Is that also the best figure skater? Is whoever is best on the day? Or whoever is just best overall in their career? I feel like that's another question people should be asking as well. But then we have skaters like Ilya Malinin, for example, who definitely has a lot of achievements. Of course, he has three world titles now, an Olympic gold in the team event, a Grand Prix final, and he has set records. He was the first to land the quad axel, for example. He was also the first man, not the first man, he broke the world record twice this season. And so maybe you could say that he's the best figure skater right now. Is he the best figure skater of all time? Maybe not, because he doesn't have those big achievements of the Olympic gold, right? Of the really just the Olympic gold. But he's had all these, contributions to the sport from the quad axel and the world record titles and the record amount of quads and a free skate and things like that. And so is he not in the running to become the best figure skater anymore simply because he doesn't have an Olympic gold, simply because he had one really poor competition? I don't know. That's something for people to decide, but oftentimes Ilya Malin is being called the best figure skater because of his prowess and his technical ability in the sport, not necessarily because of the titles he's won, because otherwise, there would be other people in that mix as well. And I guess that brings up another point. Is there one best figure skater, or can there be multiple best figure skaters? Is there really just one person who is definitively the best figure skater? Or is there multiple people? What about different disciplines? I mean, this episode, I'm really only talking about men's and women's singles, but in ice dance, they are also clearly a part of figure skating. So who's the best figure skater among them? What about the parashield as well? But maybe a lot of people, I don't know, maybe some people would define the best figure skater as the person who has the skating style and the commitment to the sport. A lot of people might point out that the best figure skater is somebody who combines the ideals of athleticism and artistry in the sport, because that really is figure skating at the end of the day, athleticism and artistry. And so perhaps a lot of people might define the best figure skater as somebody who has both sides, not just artistry and not just athleticism, but both sides, because the best skater should be the best representative of what figure skating ideally should be. And I feel like a really great example of this is my man, my king, my favorite skater, Jason Brown, of course. Yeah, I hope he doesn't retire. Anywho, definitely not crying on the inside because maybe a retirement announcement is soon. Anywho, Jason Brown is somebody I feel like who some people have named as the best of the sport. Because Jason Brown has consistently kind of mixed the ideas of artistry and athleticism together. He's landed his triple axels, he's landed his triple combinations. Excuse me, oh, I'm so tired. his triple triple combinations, but he's also maintained that artistry of the sport. The skating skills are sublime. They're up to par with, the best figure skaters in history. And in fact, he might even be one of the actual best actual skater, like skating on ice, people in history, right? The perfect marriage between athleticism and the technicality, along with that artistry side, is so crucial. And perhaps he could be considered the best in the sport because he is so devoted to marrying the best of those two. Perhaps a similar. Oh my gosh, I cannot talk even today. I can't even. I can't. Why am I messing up on my own corrective sentences? Somebody help me. But maybe a really good example of another skater who might be considered the best figure skater is Denis Saucias, for example, from Latvia, who, like Jason Brown, has a very unique skating style with really good technical ability. Maybe not like quads and everything, but maybe very good technical ability, as well as a strong commitment to the artistic side of figure skating, which makes it a sport. But how can you say, maybe if you were to argue with the other side using the other side perspective, how can you say they're the best figure skaters if they've never ever won Olympic medals and world medals and all of these other important achievements? Well, why can't you, right? Why can't you? I think this is where kind of the subjectiveness comes in as well. There was another point that I was gonna make. I literally forgot. But yeah, is the best figure skater a combination of the skating style and the commitment to the sport in terms of the technical side and the archery side, and not really their actual competitive achievements, or is it only competitive achievements and not the skating style and commitment to the athletic and artistic side of the sport? But can you really marry them both? Can somebody have a lot of achievements and have a skating style that is very committed to the entire sport? Um, you might extend this kind of skating style artistry debate a little bit. Maybe the best figure skater is the one who is the crowd pleaser, the one who entices the audience the most, the one who makes figure skating the entertainment that it really is a test of. It's a physical test, maybe, of entertainment, which I do find, could be it, right? Could be that as well. All right. Yeah, so maybe it is more artistry. Maybe there's a balance of artistry and technicality and really committing yourselves to the basics of the sport, the basics, which are moving on ice in an aesthetic way while performing different techniques and different jumps and spins, etc. Which is a really interesting conversation that, includes itself in this whole best figure skating situation, where maybe it's kind of all of these factors together that make the best figure skater. All right, but maybe you kind of look past what people do on the ice, just on the ice. Maybe you really decide who the best figure skater is based on their story, based on who they are as a person. Not who they are as a person, but like based on their story, based on their trajectory. What struggles did they go through? What lessons did they learn? Going back, for example, to Yuna Kim. Yuna Kim might be an example of one of the best figure skaters because of all the adversity that maybe she faced. Again, coming from a country like South Korea, which, did not really have a figure skating culture at all, and, working your way up, working extremely hard to winning a podium at basically every major competition, and, never leaving the podium, winning an Olympic medal and almost winning a second one, maybe should have won a second one, despite again not coming from a figure skating country, might just be, the impetus, gosh, what's a good word to use? Might just be the convincing factor maybe into making someone the best quote unquote figure skater of all time, is that idea that it's kind of based on their story. Kim would be a great example. Maybe another good example would be Miss Alyssa Liu, of course. Miss Alyssa Liu, very famous for her story, I guess, or her developing story, the story that's still going on with her. Retiring at 16 years old, rejecting figure skating, after becoming this, child prodigy at the sport, this teenage phenom of the sport, but then retiring and not really liking figure skating after that, then coming back for the pure love of the sport, the pure love for herself, and performing in front of the whole world, getting herself to a world title, an Olympic title, and another world title. All I mean, not another world title. She only won one. She only won one world title. I'm crazy. Oh my gosh. Very interesting there as well, right? You might point out a story like Amber Glenn has a story. Amber Glenn has a beautiful, wondrous story that we should all be looking up to. But Amber Glenn having a beautiful story. Um, oh, I'm so tired. Huh. I'm so tired. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Sorry, but Yuna Kim, not Yuna Kim. Oh my god. I cannot talk. Amber Glenn having a beautiful story of having all this pressure on when she was a junior skater and having all of this pressure on when, she was seen as the next up and coming star in the US, the one who was gonna beat everyone else in the world, the one who was gonna bring an Olympic medal one day back to the US, set first time since 2006 and everything like that. And her really, struggling with that pressure, struggling with mental health issues and eating disorders and different mental health issues that all have contributed to her journey, and then really having this renaissance later in her career, later in life, around ages like 23 to now 26, and now becoming one of the best figure skaters in the world. People might look at that as kind of the best figure skater because she is so inspirational and motivational for having overcome all of these different challenges, having overcome all these different struggles in life, and really, I mean, really becoming just one of the best figure skaters in that regard for overcoming all of these different challenges in her life. Okay. So maybe, you define it on the story, but again, maybe you combine it with other factors. Someone like Emery Glenn has a wondrous story, but she maybe doesn't have the Olympic title, and people might criticize her for that because no Olympic title, no world medal, no la 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 la. So you're not the best. And that's something I think this community has to really open up to, is like, let's not judge maybe who is the best and who is the worst and who's not as good maybe, but maybe that is just something very just inherent in human evil. All right, last two factors as well. Maybe you judge a skater by their memorability. Maybe you've forgotten some skaters, but maybe you judge a skater by their memorability. Maybe you judge a skater like Katharina Witt of Germany to be one of the best figure skaters of all time because even though she won Olympic titles back in 1984 and 1988, her programs are still so well known today. Her name is so well known in the figure skating world. Her face is so familiar. Her programs have been watched millions and millions and millions and millions of times. The music of Carmen is associated with Katarina Witt's interpretation of Carmen back in 1988 in Calgary. And so perhaps it's really these memorability of a skater who makes them one of the best figure skaters. And maybe that, um, how do you say? Maybe the unfortunate thing about that is that that means like current figure skaters aren't really the best figure skaters, or skaters who have just retired aren't really the best. Like, it takes a little time for someone to become so memorable and so ingrained into figure skating culture, figure skating thinking, figure skating society in a sense that they do become the best figure skater because they are so memorable. Maybe another example that's a little more modern, honestly, of memorability is I'm breaking my rule about just singles, but maybe it's from ice dance, and that is from Tessa Scott and Richie Moyer. So many people remember Tessa Scott and Richie Moyer for their famous 2 Olympic golds, 1 Olympic silver, and of course their very memorable programs, their Carmen program, their Mahler Symphony program, and of course their very, 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 very famous Moulin Rouge program. Um, and so maybe you really want to track, who is very much the best figure skater based on some of the based on how memorable they are, based on how memorable they have been, even if years or decades have passed since they were really the most the most well-known figure skater or the best figure skater of their time, and they're even bester. They're even more the best now that they've become more memorable in modern memory, and people are still watching their programs and talking about them and messaging about them to this day on all sorts of places and talking about them in public in all sorts of places. And so perhaps it's the memorability of a figure skater that contributes most to their collective gosh, what I'm trying to say, collective quality of being the best. All right, I'm back because there was like a fruit fly I had to catch or something. But anyway, so maybe the memorability of a figure skater is what makes them definitively the best. But perhaps it's all about their interactions on and off the ice. Maybe we consider the best figure skater to also kind of be the best person in a sense, the best human being, the one who has very positive traits, for instance. For instance, I feel like Jason Brown would be an example of a skater who has a great personality and philanthropy, kind of on and off the ice as well. A lot of people think Jason's kind of one of the best figure skaters because he's one of the best human beings maybe that figure skating has ever seen. He's donating to Ronald McDonald houses, to all the stuffed animals, helping with children in hospitals and their families as well. And he does a lot of just wholesome, positive content, and he's spoken about different issues within the figure skating community, and just somebody who can be considered one of the best figure skaters because he makes sure that the sport is not just a sport. He wants to connect with his viewers, connect with the fans, and really raise awareness of the different issues within the figure skating community and how figure skating can become a better sport, quote unquote, as well as a better sport that can help advance society through his different, philanthropic efforts, through his different sponsorships, and making sure people feel seen and making sure people are well taken care of at Ronald McDonald Houses, and just being one of the global ambassadors for that program. I feel like has kind of made Jason Brown kind of an icon for being one of the best human beings and therefore one of the best skaters, maybe. Maybe another great example is Alyssa Liu. I mean, I feel like over the last few months, I've always seen that thing about Alyssa Liu, like, oh, Alyssa Liu was right. You never know what you love until you take time off from it or you step back from it. I feel like a lot of people have been quoting that. That's a paraphrase, but I feel a lot of people have been quoting that or kind of saying around the same idea and being inspired, saying that they're inspired by Alyssa Liu over the past few months. And so perhaps Alyssa Liu is one of the best series getters because of her personality, her kind of unbotheredness. She doesn't really care about what other people say. And then she also really focuses on her own self and her own experience walking through the world as a figure skater, which is a really powerful message as well. Um, yeah, anyway, what was I going to say? Yeah. And so that's kind of an interesting thought as well, maybe. All right, in terms of kind of what subtracts, maybe, in terms of what subtracts from figure skating. So those are all the sorry. So those are all the examples of what maybe adds to the world of figure skating. What adds to the quality of being the best. But sometimes people do bad things, right? What subtracts from being the best in figure skating? What kind of ruins a skater's reputation? I'm not going to go into any specific skaters here, but there's tons of examples for each of these. I feel like what subtracts mostly is big drama happening. What subtracts from being the best figure skater, we don't want you as maybe the best figure skater of the sport, maybe a lot of people would say. A lot of people would say that we don't want you as the best figure skater of our sport, the representative of who the best of our sport is. When there's drama or scandals or different things around a figure skater. God, that's not a good way to phrase that. Lots of things around the life of a figure skater, the career of a figure skater that isn't necessarily taken very positively in a very positive light, of course. A great example would be different doping scandals, right? If you are caught doping or you're accused of doping and you face a ban from the what's that organization called? Whatever organization I can't think of right now, the drug thing that gosh, what are they called? I can't remember. But maybe they are maybe the World Anti-Doping Agency. That's what it's called. WADA. The World Anti-Doping Agency. Um But anyway, that might be a great example is like, oh, we don't want you to be the best figure skater if you've had a doping scandal going on. Could be scandals as well relating to things that they've said, maybe certain views of theirs that are not taken very positively by the figure skating community, kind of ruins their reputation of being the best figure skater. They could show that they changed maybe their views or maybe, I don't know. So that might be a very common, like, automatic, like, no, you're not the best figure skater because you're not a very good human being. You said this, you've done that, you've done things, you've done this, you've done that, etc. I feel like a really another good example of a common criticism of someone not being the best figure skater is lack of skill, or one skill over another skill. They might lack a certain artistry in their skating, and they really prioritize the technical side of their figure skating. That's a common criticism that people say, well, you can't be the best figure skater because you're not really figure skating. You're really prioritizing jumps over the actual artistry part, the actual skating part. Maybe that's kind of the complaint there. The argument as well could go the other way around. Well, you're really artistic skater, but you're not a very good skater at the jumps and the spins, for example. And so maybe that's a common criticism as well, is that, oh, you can't be the best figure skater if you don't have it all. You need to have it all to become the best figure skater. What other things? A lot of other things take away from figure skater maybe. They a lot of stupid things, I would say. They don't have the best music, they don't have the best hairstyle, they don't have the best costume. But again, this idea of being the best is already so subjective. And so boiling it down to their looks or their music choices is really, really awful. And so I do feel like there is so much unnecessary conflict over these issues that people kind of just want to stir up conflict and point out the flaws that they personally feel or they personally see in a figure skater, in one or two or every single figure skater that they see. Um, anyway, so those are some of the things that take away from a figure skater. But I truly do think, in my conclusion, I truly do think that is there really a best figure skater? Or is it really just a subjective viewpoint? Because if we're thinking the best figure skater, are they perfect? Or is a perfect skater the best skater? But I do feel like no skater is truly perfect because does perfect really exist? Does perfect really exist in this sport that keeps on developing? This sport that keeps on changing rules? This sport that, will never, ever, ever become stagnant and flow and just stop changing, right? I mean, yeah, no skater is maybe like the truly perfect skater because that perfect doesn't really exist. At the end of the day, this whole idea is, quite subjective. Everyone has their favorites, everyone has their biases, everyone has their own opinion, and perhaps that opinion is really the strongest thing in the whole dang world. I certainly feel like it can be sometimes. Um, we will always maybe be debating about the best figure skater the longer this sport exists. I'm sure 100 years ago we thought the best figure skater was Ulrich Salchow or Axel Paulsen. And nowadays, because there's been so many more figure skaters, maybe the best figure skater really is right now Ilya Malinin, or maybe it is Yuzuru Hanyu, or maybe it is Yuna Kim. Who really does know? And so if we're always debating about this, perhaps we'll never really learn to appreciate something for what it is. We'll always be criticizing. We'll always be criticizing why this one is not the best, but this one is. But then that one actually isn't the best. This one is because of this reason or that reason. And so perhaps we'll just be debating forever and ever and ever. And maybe this is just very indicative, very, revealing about what the human the human experience is really like. We are so obsessed with finding what the best is, what is to par, and what is the worst. We're so obsessed with finding the best, in fact, that maybe we forget to really slow down and really do appreciate what already exists. Um, and we are so obsessed with finding what the best quality is. Who is getting the most tens? Who has the best composition? Who has the best skating skills, who has the best jumps, who has the best spins, etc. we're so obsessed with finding whatever the best is as human beings that when we find something that is not in our personal definition or in our communal definition or societal definition of best, it instantly becomes inferior and subpar and even sometimes the worst of the worst. And in a sport that already has so much conflict, in a sport that already has so many different debates over its future, over what input the fans have in it, over what input the skaters have in it, is really having society or the community really organize skaters by the best to par and the worst. Maybe that's not the direction that such a sport needs to go in. We maybe cannot adapt this idea of the best, because you got other sports, maybe basketball, maybe baseball, maybe football, that maybe have a little easier criteria for what is the best, who scored the most points, who had the most assists, who was consistently winning MVP, things like that. But in such a unique sport like figure skating, where each and every figure skater is uniquely powerful in their own way, uniquely themselves in their own way, perhaps finding the best is actually quite damaging for the sport. Perhaps it's actually a negative idea for the sport that will only drain the sport and make it more conforming. What tends to happen, I feel like, when you make something the best in society and everything else is the worst, is that everyone strives to be those exact same qualities. Everyone strives to have those exact same perfections as what the best is defined as. But again, because this sport is supposed to be unique, because everyone is supposed to wear a different outfit and skate to different music and have different abilities, perhaps searching for the best is just not possible in figure skating. No more is it possible maybe in other sports, but perhaps even more so in the world of figure skating, where everyone is unique in their own way and there's just no point in trying to find who the best is. So some interesting thoughts on In Search of the Best Figure Skater. Of course, everyone again, like I said, will have a different definition of the best figure skater. I'm sure you want to hear who my best figure skaters are. And I mean, there's just so many figure skaters that I just love, enjoy to watch. I could spend forever watching and talking about each and every skater. And I won't, but I'll name some basics. You guys know I love Jason Brown, Amber Glenn, I love as well. Kim obviously as well, and Ice Dance, Ginyar Fabry, Tequila Lewis, just some of the more common, more modern names. Going back in time, Chen Lu, love Chen Lu during the 90s. Gosh, lots of names. And the pairs, I don't watch pairs. And so I guess those are a few of my best, and I have different reasons for why each of them are the best to me, the best to me personally. And that's something everyone else will have as well. So again, I don't maybe think that the best can really be defined, and perhaps these Twitter debates, these X debates, and these Reddit posts, and these super dramatic Instagram reels are really meant to get likes, to stir conversation, to stir debate, to get a little clout maybe, and not really to define who really is the best figure skater, because perhaps that is really an impossible question to answer that will truly only hurt the sport in the end. But yeah, that's the episode. I thought, I don't know, it was an interesting topic to me, interesting topic as I thought about it. I hope you guys all enjoyed me ranting about who or what the criteria for what the best figure skater is, if we can even find the best figure skater, and all the implications for figure skating as we move forward into a sport for the future, a sport for everyone, a sport for the future, and the most unique sport in the history of the entire global landscape. But thank you so much for listening to this episode of a Teen Talks Game podcast. My name is Zango. I will see you, I will talk to you guys next week for who knows what, whatever I want. But yeah, thank you so much, and I will see you next week. Bye bye.